I just want to close by a little story. I like to do little hope bombs. And I got to share this the other day out in a far northern town called Hawkesbury. It was just on my mind. I've been wrestling with some things, and the parable is fishing. Does anybody fish here? Oh, like a lot of people. Yeah, good for you. I quit. Guys, it's trauma. Like, don't laugh at my trauma. I quit for a reason. Hey, yeah, screw fishing. Go motorbiking. No, I actually did quit. But I used to fish for bass and walleye because you just got to know them, and they're predators. So if you use the right thing, they're kind of automatic. And so as a predator, they just hit. So you can pretty much, you got to know where they are, and you got some techniques, and you can pretty much pull them out of the water all the time. And one thing I found with fishing, pulling them out of the water isn't, like, doing that all the time isn't so much fun. There's a dilemma there. There's some tension because we went to Quebec City. No, we went beyond Quebec City. We were in the, what do you call that? The Gaspésie. And I saw these guys, all these guys were on the piers and they're fishing. And I wasn't allowed to bring my fishing stuff. And we found out the rules that you can fish in that water no matter who you are for free if you have the rod at the end of a pier. And they were pulling out little missile fish. They're called mackerel. Yeah, holy mackerel. That's where they get it from. So these little bullet fish. And so I went to the hardware store, bought the cheapest rod, and bought I bought 2 lures. I only used one of them, and I cast out. I'm with all the other guys. I didn't really know what to do. Cast out, and there's dolphins. I'm scared to catch a dolphin, but every cast, I caught a mackerel. And I'm like, holy mackerel. That's what this is all about. And then by half an hour in, I'm like, bro, you want some fish? You got to wait pail. We can fill this up together because I don't care anymore. It got boring. And so there's a fine line between catching too many fish and not enough fish. You got to be a balance. My balance is about 3 an hour. That's a good balance. Just, I don't know if anybody can agree to that. Like 5 is a good, like, okay, we can always have more. But you get, if it's a constant thing, it gets boring. It gets redundant. And so there needs to be a challenge. So what I did in my challenge, I decided to go muskie fishing. Muskie fishing, if you know muskie fishing, they're 1 in 10,000 cast fish. So what am I doing? I'm like, there's a big challenge. Some of the Ottawa River right where we are has some of the best muskie fishing this world has to offer for real. They're like the size of alligators. So they're the size of a hippopotamus. They're huge. They're the beasts of the Ottawa River. So I'm studying them. Like, if you looked at my browser history, you'd be like, this is a sick man. He's like into musky porn. Like, that's all he's watching. Like, it's kind of weird. And I'm like watching like the vegetation where they go. Like, I am consuming this. And I go to the fishing store and I'm the fishing store with all the men that know what they're doing. And I don't really know what I'm doing in this area. So I kind of like, hey, so if you were catching muskie, like, you know, when we catch muskie, what kind of rod do we use? And he's like, you want to go fishing for muskie? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, you want to be a man? And I'm like, I do want to be a man. And he's like, come over here. And he's like, this is a 1-piece rod. It barely flexes. And I'm like, it barely flexes. And then it's like, here's your reel. And I'm like, that's a big reel. And he's like, here's your leader. It's like this metal chain that you wear around your neck. And I'm like, wow, this is intense. And then here's some lures. Like, here's one. Like, they're that big for real. And muskie, they want to eat the most slowest, biggest thing they can get. So if you're slow in the water, I didn't mean slow. I can chirp up. Just be careful in the water or in the Ottawa region. Don't be like paddling and being like slow and stuff. Because you throw this chair with a hook on it, it'll bite it. And they eat ducks, and they go in shallow water, but then some are in deep water, and some you got to troll. And I remember I was trolling, and I was like kind of hitting through a bay, so I was kind of getting to the other end where the muskie are, and I caught one mid-bay. And I'm like, my first muskie. And muskie get very big, like 20, 40, 60 pounds. Mine was like 8 pounds. It was still a muskie. It still counted. I was like, I took the picture, and when you take the picture closer, they look bigger. So it looked good. And I was like, that year I probably caught 5. One of them, I got it in the boat, and they have these big teeth. And I dropped it in the boat, and I screamed like a little girl because there's not much room in my boat, and it was flapping. And I was like, this is the funnest day of my life. And it took a lot of time, money, and energy. And it took me going to other men. Yeah, I want to be a fisherman. And what it reminded me of is that if you suffer with a hopeless state of mind and body that only a spiritual experience can conquer, then you got to treat the solution just like me muskie fishing. And it doesn't matter what platform you have or don't have, what job you have or don't have, because the disease that I have kills 97% or puts us in jail or ends our lives in some way. 97%, only 3% of us that try to get sober stay sober. So if you're not treating the solution like me muskie fishing, if you're not after that solution with all of your heart and all of your soul and all of your energy and all of your resource, then I don't know what's going to happen to you. But in my time at working in a rehab for 10 years, I've seen hundreds of men come and go because they didn't take it seriously. They said, I just want to get my life back on track. And now that it's back on track, I get busy doing my things. But the only reason you have a life is because you're good at muskie fishing. And the whole point to this spiritual life, if you have a disease like mine that nothing can help, the tools, the psychiatry, the jail time, the psychology, the lockdowns, the getting your kids taken away, the driver's license, whatever it is, nothing's helped me. The rehab centers, and only a relationship with God that will solve my problem, because my problem isn't drugs and alcohol. It's a spiritual uneasiness inside of me. And if I'm not pursuing that, then I have no life. And so my encouragement to you, no matter what your position in life is, no matter where you work, is if you have what I have, you need a spiritual solution that will solve that problem. And you got to go for it like muskie. And the whole point of muskie fishing is to eventually catch a fish. And the whole point of the spiritual life is lead other people into a relationship with God that will solve their problem. And it gives you this mission that is so exciting, because you see guys just like you were, and you're like, you're drooling, you're not making sense, but I got a solution. And you're like, now my thoughts and my actions revolve around helping the next suffering person. And so if you want to know more about that, we have a community, Ashes to Rubies, Carlington Booch. If you want to volunteer, get plugged in. I believe the opposite of addiction is connection. And so as many points of connection that we can get ultimately to God, I just want to invite you in on that. So we are studying the Bible on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. We have a LifeLab workshop that walks you into the recovery of the Garden of Eden inside of you, just trying to investigate what it means to have recovery of the temple inside. We are the temple. And we have different meetings, Thursday, Wednesday. Feel free to just join us. Come how you are. You don't have to get cleaned up. God will shower you and teach you how to muskie fish. And hopefully you catch the first fish. And you're like, yeah. Just don't. The fish that we're talking about, you can't eat them, and you can't kill them and clean them and stick them on your wall. All right. We're going to go fishing for men. That was it. And women.